have you been doing?
Hello Lils and Jelly Spoons, welcome back to Kohigh Mathy's YouTube channel, and I'm joined by a guest.
Greetings.
This is Mr. Barker from Mr. Barker's YouTube channel. Check him out, there will be a link floating around somewhere on the screen.
Your ukulele is out of tune, by the way.
It is, it's shockingly out of tune. It's because I don't play the ukulele. So today, Mr. B is going to tell us some of his favourite video games from yesteryear.
And my top 5, yes, looking back at my teenage life. A long time ago, I'm feeling very middle-aged now. Okay. But I have a ukulele to keep me young at heart.
Sid Meier's Civilization 2. A turn-based strategy video game in the Civilization series. Developed and published by Micropose, it was released in 1996 for the PC and later ported to the PlayStation by Activision.
Okay, Civ 2 was it was just an epic introduction to PC gaming for me. I'd spent all my childhood and teenage years until that point playing Nintendos mainly, and I was very much a Nintendo man, so I'd been very much a Nintendo guy all the way through early Nintendo, the original, through to a SNES, through to an N64, and then when I was about 16, 17 I found Civ 2. You might well have introduced me to it.
Yeah,
I know it came out in 96,
yep.
So it would have been more 98, even 99 when I really got into it.
We definitely didn't play it until probably about 97, 98 time. Yeah.
So I was quite late getting into it anyway. So I probably got into it on the back of your enthusiasm for it, and it was just so much more powerful than obviously the console games. So much more you could do with it. I just loved the level of the graphics for the time. The gameplay was just amazing, and it just it's like I said, it was really my introduction to PC gaming. It just really blew me away. A lot of fun with the graphics, all the little historic miniatures and the characters. Just the fun of moving that settle around and trying to discover brave new worlds, and I love the animations as well.
Yeah.
The different advisors who pop up and say, no, you need to do more trade, or you need to attack, or
the wonderful advisors that basically the military one was very like one side, you need to build like a bigger military, and then everybody else was always against the military advisor. I always seem to remember.
But it was just really had that epic feel about the whole thing, and I love the historical aspect of it, of going through the ages and all the different great civilization. What did you call them? The things you could build.
Oh, wonders.
Wonders.
Yeah.
Right. I loved all the wonders that you could build. The Great Wall of China, the Colosseum, all the different just early things like the lighthouse. So I love the historical aspect of it as well. It just seemed a really nice rounded game. There was a lot of fun. Really quite challenging as well. Maybe that's just me because I was new to PC gaming. I found it a real big challenge creating an empire that really did anything. There's always one AI who you battle early on and then beat quite easily, but then if you became complacent, you just get destroyed. I remember being a Roman legion on one occasion. I had these brand new Roman legions. I just discovered them. I was employing them in my defensive positions, and then I got nuked. I was like 500 years, nearly 1,000 years behind the civilization threshold. My Roman legion got nuked, and I was gutted. And I realised just how hard this game was to get right.
Number 4, Super Mario World. A 1990 side-scrolling platformer game developed and published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES if you prefer. The story follows Mario's quest to save Princess Toadstool and Dinosaur Land from a series of antagonists, Bowser and his children, the Koopalings.
It's a bit of a personal choice, this. It's an epic game, and in many ways some people might think it should be further up my list compared to the other games that I'm going to talk about in a moment. For me, this was, in the same way that Civ 2 was an introduction to PC gaming.
Yeah.
Super Mario World was a mega introduction into the world of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So one of my other friends had a Super Nintendo while I was still on the Nintendo, and I suddenly realised how backwards I was, because suddenly Super Mario 3 on the original NES and all my other amazing games on the NES just suddenly paled into insignificance. And the Super Mario World was what it was all about, and I just wanted to get that game, and I wanted to get that SNES, and I got hold of the SNES not too long later, but I didn't actually get hold of my own copy of Super Mario World until about 10 years later. I think I borrowed it from a friend and then played it over and over again, and then never actually bought my own copy until I sort of went back to it quite a long time later, but played it again. And one of the great things about Super Mario World is the replayability. It's the sort of game you can crack it open now and it's just timeless. The graphics just work brilliantly for what they were then, and they, like I say, compared to the NES, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, it was such a massive step up. The fun, the excitement of the graphics. It was all very simple, just nice little cartoon illustrations, but it was just really powerful, just in the sort of creative imagination, the worlds it took you to. What really made it was the sound effects. The whole soundtrack for Super Mario World just transformed what could have been a good game to just an outstanding game. Just when you go down a cave, so you got all sort of echoey, sort of hop-like sounds. When you're under the water, you got the sort of, you know, the soundtrack just matched perfectly every setting, really took you there. And that was really what made it really exciting for me. And I just thought the gameplay was really exciting. You could play as Mario or Luigi. You had Yoshi. You go around all different areas of the Mario map, and it was just brilliant. It wasn't too difficult. It was quite easy to defeat the end of game baddies, the Koopalings, and the different castles. But what the challenge was often getting to the end, finding a way, especially the ghost mansions, finding a way through the ghost mansions, finding a way through the castles, finding a way around the map, finding all the hidden features, all the bonus worlds. There's some really nice aspects hidden away on the map. So it works on so many levels. The fact you could crack it open today and enjoy a good few hours on it again, just for the sort of retro aspect of it. It's a sort of real retro classic now. I think it's one of the Nintendo's probably biggest all-time hits. It works on so many levels, really established Mario, whereas on the Nintendo, Mario had been really fantastic, but not necessarily that amazing to play. Mario 1, 2 and 3, they're all good games, but all had their flaws. Mario World was really the epitome of, I think, what they wanted Mario to be, and in a way I think many of the later iterations didn't manage to capture that glory again. So I think Mario World really set the standard very high, and it's number 4 on my list.
Number 3, Shogun Total War, a turn-based strategy and real-time tactics game developed by the Creative Assembly and published by Electronic Arts for the PC. Released in June 2000, the game became the debut title for the Creative Assembly's Total War series.
Right, Shogun. Well, you've probably realised with each of my games that I've chosen, they're really games that in my early life really took me to a whole new level of gaming. So yeah, whether it's going from the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, from the Super Nintendo or N64, that's sort of got running parallel to PC gaming. Shogun was another step forward where I went from some really quite nice PC games and still enjoying Nintendo games to suddenly the whole new world of Shogun Total War. And so it came out in the year 2000, you said, didn't you? So that was, when was Civ 2?
Civ 2 in 96.
So it was 4 years after Civ 2, and it was 4 years of really good game development. Suddenly you had, I mean, the map interface of Shogun is quite similar really to how Civ 2 plays. A sort of overall strategic game that's clearly based on that sort of game idea. But then you've got the battle scenes, and they are just brilliant on Shogun Total War, and I think they just got it right, because with so many of these games, I feel that with the early versions, the very first version often is a bit basic, and then the second or third version tends to be just right, and then the fourth or fifth version then go a bit too complex. And I think with later Shogun versions or later Total War versions, the gameplay becomes too in detail, and I've had issues with Total War Empire and Total War Medieval Total War, where you just get bogged down, and it literally the computer's taking 15 minutes to load a battle sequence because there's so much computer power required. Whereas Shogun 2 was quite light running, you could play through the game quite quickly. The battles, you'd have a couple of hundred men in your army and you could have a good battle, and it didn't take too long to master that sort of size army. So it was just the right size for me. It was a challenge because you'd have maybe 200 or 300 samurai or archers coming at you, and you got to figure out what you're going to do with your archers and your cavalry or whoever you had. But it was really, there's lots of aspects to think about. There's the hills, the elevation, the height advantage, hiding in the trees, the rain, the fog, all sorts of things going on, rivers and bridges, castles to defend, and that was just in the battle scenes, and I thought it was just really exciting. There's so many challenges, and then on the strategic level, building up your farms, deciding which aspects of the armies to develop, whether it's your cavalry, your archers, if you go defensively, or go really attacking with your warrior monks, for example. building up your armour and your weaponry, and it's just so many options. And even things like you could build up your secret agents and your spies and develop your assassins and go down that route. So there are loads of things you could do on the game. And just the sheer complexity of having one region of Japan and you're surrounded by about 6 different factions, all potentially attacking you at the same time. All you got to keep on side, and you got to make sure you're defending all your borders. There was just so much going on in what was quite a simple game. It was just a real a beautiful game that was just really perfectly created, I thought.
Number 2, Donkey Kong Country, a 1994 platformer developed by Rare and published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo. The game centers around Donkey Kong and his friend Diddy Kong, who are on a quest to recover Donkey Kong's stolen banana hoard from King K. Rool and the Kremlings.
Some people might question why I've chosen Donkey Kong Country in second place as opposed to Super Mario World. In my mind, they're both really close together. And although I couldn't quite decide, and I put Shogun in the middle, so it got a bit complicated.
Yeah, not a first-party Nintendo game as your number 2. Oh my god, well, exactly. What are you doing?
But I just remember, I mean, Super Mario World was one of my first introductions to the SNES, and it was a big step up from the NES. But then once I got the Super Nintendo, and I got quite a few games for it, and then in 1994, there was a massive fanfare in all the media. I mean, I wasn't subscribed to any gaming magazines or comics or anything, but I just remember reading about it in magazines. It was all over the place. Rare working with Nintendo, reintroducing Donkey Kong from the original Mario and Donkey Kong games, and it was just a massive fanfare, and it was just another epic title that they brought out. And it was just brilliant. It was a massive step up on the Nintendo platform for the platform-based games. I mean, compared to Super Mario World, just the level of graphics. I mean, it's still obviously just simple 2D animations, but the level of detail in the illustrations. And I remember watching on TV a short documentary just about the behind the scenes, the creative Donkey Kong Country. It was that exciting at the time. And everyone was raving about it, and it was just the really beautiful graphics, really beautiful gameplay. Again, an epic soundtrack that would just really capture your imagination, just made you want to play and play and play. Just create great characters, great lead characters, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, great bad guys, the different enemies that you had to battle against, and just great background graphics, great levels, all sorts of exciting treetop animations. It was like Star Wars meets Donkey Kong, all sorts of treetop battles and wonderful planets and different places you went on as you sort of basically moved around this big mountain that the map was, and trying to find Donkey Kong's banana hoard. If there was a weak point, there was the storyline. But if you forgot that they were basically just looking for bananas, it was an epic story, and just a great game.
And at number 1, Super Mario Kart.
Oh yes!
A 1992 kart racing video game developed and published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo.
Get in there.
The first game in the Mario Kart series, it was released in Japan and North America in 1992 and Europe the following year. Selling 9 million copies worldwide, the game went on to become the 4th best-selling Super Nintendo game of all time.
Super Mario Kart is the best game ever. Simple as that. It's just...
I disagree.
Ignore this guy, doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just brilliant. I mean, I love racing games. I had a few Formula 1 games on the Nintendos, had a few other Top Gear, different types of racing games. Mario Kart was just fantastic, and it's just the challenge of it, the excitement of it, the thrill, the speed. And I think they just nailed it that first time with Mario Kart. It was the characters were fun, the graphics were very, very simple, but they worked. It wasn't chunky like a lot of the early Nintendo racing games. They got nice clean graphics where you could see what you were doing. The weapons were like fantastic, and not like some of the later Mario Kart iterations where the weapons got ridiculous and complicated. The weapons were just a little edge, but it's still fundamentally a racing game where you had to race carefully. And it was a real challenge to win. Yeah, the 50cc and the 100cc were easy enough, but you stepped up to 150cc and you went on the Special Cup, or the Star Cup, and that was a real challenge. I remember racing, constantly racing against Luigi. The AI would always have Luigi at the top, and his special ability was to go invincible, which was a pain in the arse because you'd be racing along and you'd you get near them, try and overtake, and suddenly you go invincible, and you'd spin round and you'd get knocked off the circuit. And that was so it was a real challenge, and that's what I liked about games that really were difficult to play, and difficult to win, and just the fun of Mario Kart, the simplicity of it, again the music track, the soundtrack was fantastic, the different challenges that you had, the time trial was great, and again nice and simple. The challenge of trying to get around the whole track without one mistake, without one error, without one bump into the wall, getting that perfect time, that was really compulsive and addictive. Trying to nail the original Super Nintendo Mario Kart Rainbow Road 3 laps on a time trial without making one mistake, without sliding off the track once. It's a really tight track. None of the later Mario Karts get anywhere near to the sheer satisfaction of nailing that for 3 laps straight and getting the perfect time lap. And then having the beauty of the ghost that would come up and would be your previous attempt would be marked out by a ghost that would drive around with you, so you could see what you're doing if you're trying to better it. And then the sort of cheat mode that you could do where if you pressed all 4 buttons on the controller together you shrunk down. Why have none of the other iterations done that? I spent ages on the N64 messing around with my controller trying to figure out how to do it. That was one of the most amazing parts of it. The fun of shrinking yourself down to give yourself that extra challenge once you'd mastered the game. And none of the other iterations have done that since. And I just don't think any...
I'm not entirely sure that's true. I think one of the other iterations, but I'll
look into
I will
that.
edit that
I've never been aware of that.
If it's true, it's true.
And I don't think any of the other Mario Karts have come close until we had this conversation earlier, until Mario Kart 8. I think Mario Kart 8 has finally pulled it back out of there and put Mario Kart back on the front of the map. Whereas all the way through, I think they've been trying to play catch up just to the amazing quality of the original. It's just such an exciting game to play, just for the sheer fun and the gameplay and the different things you can do with it.
Well, Ladles and Jelly Spoons, I hope you enjoyed that little delve into Mr. B's favourite video games of all time. A good list, actually. I do think it's a good list.
Very much a personal list
It is.
of games that were significant to me as I grew up. Games I sort of moved from one to another, sort of different levels of gaming that I enjoyed through my teens, really.
If you want to see more of Mr. B, check his channel out. Again, there will be a link down in the description and there should be one on the screen somewhere at the minute. If you've liked this video, be sure to hit the old like button. If you want to see more of this mush every Wednesday at 6 PM British Standard Time, please be sure to hit the old subscribe button and we shall see you next week. Alright, Jono,
Ready?
for the last time, play me in 2, 3, 4.
Super Mario World is just the best game. Super Mario World? Super Mario... What am I talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about Mario Kart.
It's going to cut.
Around Donkey Kong and his friend Diddy Kong, who are on a quest to recover... oh no,
Yeah, tune again. Sorry, just keep those. Just I made a mistake. Try again.
2, 3, 4.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, Donkey Kong Country.
Hang on, wait till I put it down. And number 1, Super Mario Kart.
Oh yeah.